Warning, this podcast is not for the faint of heart. We keep it real and raw and talk about issues that other podcasts wouldn't dare. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. Step into our world. What do you do if you fall in love with one of your kid's friends who's over 18? How do you handle getting caught in bed with your boss? Why do girls like bad boys? Are you burned out from an unbalanced career and personal life? Are you still working while your kids are telling you how their days went? Our passion is to help people in relationships, anyone you have a connection with in life, neighbors, coworkers, family, spouse, kids, yourself, and helping you achieve the work-life balance. Let's have some fun and let's get educated. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast. And now your host, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer.
Well, hello, everyone. You know who it is, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, your favorite life alignment strategist and certified relationship, life, and business coach. Let's get into it. But before we do, I know some people want to know how to get in touch with me because usually I'll say it at the end, but here it is. So you can reach me at DRLAMARRSPENCER.com. That's DRLAMARRSPENCER. Or you can go old school, 973-214-6464. Or you can email me at drlamarspencer@gmail.com. So let's get into it. Today I have an interesting topic that most of you have probably endured or witnessed. I know I have done both. So we're going to be talking about workplace bullying. And so the reason why I chose this is because people actually asked me. And also I have been a victim of workplace bullying. More than a couple of occasions that I even like to mention. But yes, I was a victim too. I didn't initially know it was bullying. I thought maybe I just had a tough boss. But as I started to research and ask around, not of course my colleagues, but just some of my mentors, I realized that I was a victim. Now, sometimes, more often than not, when managers bully their employees, they're actually given promotions and all type of awards because they're looked upon as being tough managers who actually get the job done. And let me just tell you this, I actually have done extensive research on this topic because it was so near and dear to me that I actually written my dissertation based on workplace bullying and reviewing to see if companies have policies and procedures and education around it. My primary focus was small and mid-sized companies, and the reason why is because normally what I've found is larger companies usually have those type of resources. However, again, small and mid-sized did not. And so, we always think of bullying as something that happens at the playground with the mean girl or mean boy. The playground is high school. But guess what? Think again. It actually happens to adults. And it actually costs companies a lot of money per year. So today I want to give you some signs to look out for and what you can do if you are a victim or if you're actually witnessing someone being bullied. Now, I know most people don't want to say that they're bullied, and most managers or even business owners, they don't want to say, hey, you know what, I actually bullied my employees. No one wants to be on the receiving or even the giving side. I know, like I said, I did my dissertation on this, and I had to look at the policies and procedures because no one wanted to talk about it. Let's face it. We're afraid of losing our jobs, or we're afraid of companies being dragged on social media. So no one wants to be, like I said, on the giving or receiving end. And so workplace bullying takes on many forms, from easy recognizing, these actions or questioning, and also really they try to harm you. Either way, the result of workplace bullying at best is uncomfortable and at worst dangerous. Now, we don't want to misconstrue bullying versus harassment, because harassment is more like discrimination, whereas bullying is repetitive, psychological imbalance it causes. I mean, it could be name calling, it could be just public embarrassment. I mean, the list goes on, and I'm going to give you the sign so that maybe you can be aware of this, or maybe it's happening to you, or even you're looking and seeing that it's happening to your colleague. But regardless, it's still an uncomfortable situation. But I'm going to tell you, either way, guess what? Good news is you're not alone, and I'm here to help you. So let's get to it. So mainly, managers or owners, and the reason why I'm saying owners is because it could be like a mom pop, but for the purposes of this, we're going to say managers. How about that? And so managers usually, it's someone who likes to constantly intimidate you and force you to do things their way. And that's actually a sign of workplace bullying. So whether they're intimidating you because they're in position of power, or they're simply insisting that their opinion is the only one that matters, a coworker who is uninterested in anyone else's problem. So they want to kind of, rule with that iron fist, and they want to intimidate you. They want to scare you. They're like that, playground bully. And so really, bullies often, they're sneaky about the ways in which they harm the victims, which is you. And they ignore someone, and that's the tactic that both is effective and easy to deny, especially if you're working in a remote setting. After all, they really aren't doing anything to their coworkers. And in fact, they're actually not doing anything. If your workplace bully is ignoring you in meetings or via email, or generally isn't collaborative, their inaction can have plenty of negative impact on you. So in a sense, let's break that down. They when I say they ignore you, they ignore you, and they go to great lengths. And even again, since most of us are working remotely, you might send them an email and they may ignore it, or if they're extremely delayed when they get back to you, or they're very limited on the information that they give to you. So be careful. And when they do give you the information, if they do, they're very condescending. And so they're very toxic, and they resort to being condescending, and it makes them feel inferior. If someone is disrespecting you by talking down to you, guess what? You're guilty of this, and it's not your imagination. I know sometimes people say things, like your manager or, like I said, owner, they'll say things and it makes you think twice. It makes you question if you're taking it the wrong way. And it could be subtle, or it could be very direct. So be mindful of it. They're always changing their expectations, and it's impossible to succeed when it comes to your goals not being clear, and a boss or supervisor or your manager tries to avoid communication and expectation, or are always changing it. And it could be on a whim, and it really creates a hostile work environment. Really, it's setting you up to fail. I would tell you and recommend that when this happens, make sure that you take copious notes. I know it's going to seem like a drag. You might feel like you've actually written down more in this journal that we're going to talk about when doing your actual work. But you need to do this. Keep a journal, notebook, or whatever you want to call it, and write down all of the occurrences. Because if you need to go to human resources, or if you need to, God forbid, go to court or something like that, you have notes, and it shows a pattern. You need date, time, and exactly what happens. Don't give your opinion, write down the actual facts. So make sure that you do. And then also it shows the changing of expectations and how they're not clear and how they're setting you up to fail. And then also, not that just this book is, good, of course, and it is, if you have to go to court, but when you have to go for the bonuses and raises, sometimes in those conversations, when you're having your one-on-one, they will come with and say, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that on this day, you didn't do it the way I asked you to. Then that way you can pull out that journal or notebook, you can show them and prove to them that their expectations changed or the assignment that you were given was not accurate or they ignored you. And it's not to sort of throw daggers at your manager or your boss, but it's to show them that, you know what, you did produce quality work in a timely fashion at their request. So make sure you have that. And I'm going to tell you, when you have these bullies in the workplace, they lie. So you might not be aware of the little lies at first, but chances are you'll find out eventually. The lies may be personal. Someone may be saying little things about you that aren't true, or they can arise in forms of promises or even in meetings. So be mindful of those things. And let me just tell you, I'm saying all this, and sometimes you're going to hear me reiterate and say, hey, that's important, because again, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt for it. And honestly, you're going to need to show this to someone, or you may decide, hey, I'm going to go look for another job, but at least it's readily available. Because I'm going to tell you, as sure as they're bullying you, guess what's going to happen? And they're constantly doing, they're going to start taking credit for your work without giving you any sort of acknowledgement. And that's the problem that really needs to be dealt with immediately. It's easy to want to give folks the benefit of the doubt, but when you let them enjoy your hard work and being in the limelight while it's, kind of pushed in the corner that you've done the work, there's no good to come after it. So take the credit that you deserve. Again, it usually happens around, when it's time for you to get a raise or promotion or anything like that. I don't know if some of you remember the movie Working Girl with Melanie Griffith, where she was like the executive admin and her boss was always taking credit. But when asked, she could explain how she did the project. It's kind of the same situation. Some of these movies that come out really are depictions of actual events. Hey, I'm going to give you another one. The Devil Wears Prada. The Devil Wears Prada had Meryl Streep and what's her name? I forget her name. But Anne Hathaway, yes. That was based on Anna Wintour, who's now retired, but she's the editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine. Yes, she was a bully. If you go back and watch those two movies, like I said, Working Girl and The Devil Wears Prada, I guarantee if you're a victim, there's going to be some things in those movies that's going to give you an aha moment. Because don't forget, even in the movie, especially The Devil Wears Prada, remember in the movie, Meryl Streep, she was condescending and she was always over talking. And so, yes, if you're in a meeting, they will tend to kind of flex their power and they will over talk you. They don't always give you the opportunity to ask questions or even contribute to the discussion without constantly being interrupted. And sure, it's normal for some to get excited about, your idea or, especially on occasion. You may want to chime in before it's your turn, but they do it all of the time. And I know sometimes there's a delay, especially when it comes to us working remote. There is. I've been through it myself. I go through it daily. But there's a way you will notice where it's almost like abrupt and it just becomes too much. And actually, it becomes disrespectful. How about that? And I will tell you, as much as you may not want to believe, they gossip about you. Yes, bullies will gossip about you in more ways than you will ever realize. And it's one thing to tell your coworkers how great you are, or, say little things, but they will always talk about how you're not doing a great job, you're always late, you don't like to take on a challenging project, and they may even whisper behind your back to make fun of you or even spread rumors. And that could affect you, especially when it comes to maybe moving to a different department. And I have to tell you, give you an example of this. I had a manager tell me a long time ago she was gossiping about not just me, but other people. And she flat out told us, like, you know what? Management moves you. So it doesn't matter how much experience you have, how much education you have, or who you know. I am your decision maker. And you know what? I have to say, during that time, she was absolutely right. So be careful of that. And then also, they like to give what I call destructive criticism. Of course, it's great to give constructive criticism. Right. When you give destructive criticism, that's a whole other thing. So no matter how much you used to, doing your job, and we know it's never easy. A good coworker or supervisor understand that the best criticism comes with advice, and especially improving and learning from your mistakes. But not them. Their criticism serves to degrade you, demean you, and belittle you. They do that to bully you. And they always, usually, I say always, but normally they will disrespect your time. As the old saying goes, you should be working to live and not living to work. And so an environment in which schedules are constantly changing with little or no notice to you or your coworkers, you're late or absent from meetings that are actually that you're not even privy to. So your time is valuable too. And it's important that your manager in particular honors that. But they're not going to always do it. They change, meetings, just different things on a whim. They know that maybe, let's just say you have to travel to work, or you have to drop your kids off at school in the morning. They will disrespect the time by scheduling something around that time where they know that you may not always be available. It's happened to me. I remember being in the car, dropping my daughter off, and also on a conference call, praying that I didn't go to a bad area where the car would drop. I mean, when I tell you, almost getting into accidents and just different things, having to be on camera, have the phone right to my face so it shows I'm not in the car. Been there, done that. And it's an uncomfortable situation and feeling. And people may say, be careful of the driving, making sure you don't get into an accident. But if they knew that then, or even here, they wouldn't schedule meetings and activities or just projects around that time. They are disrespectful. And so, really, even if you talk to them, guess what? They will actually, they dismiss your concerns. And it can be scary to speak up and share your worries, and you deserve to be heard and taken seriously. But managers who give you the equivalent or a pat on the head is not someone who has your best interest at heart. So be mindful. And also about the secrecy. Yes, whether people are keeping you out of the loop about a big project or planning something in the office get together without you, secrecy isn't always kind, and it's part of it's not part of a good, healthy environment. I remember something so petty as a pizza party. When I wasn't invited to the pizza party, And I know it's like, well, it's only peaceful. Well, no, because usually when my team orders pizza, they will order a pie for, everyone. Now, of course, we weren't going to eat the whole pie, but that's what they ordered. So, of course, I didn't want anchovy. I didn't want pizza. So they ordered all the pizzas that they knew I wouldn't like. And as a result, I wasn't even involved. I wasn't even invited. So, yeah, that was a little sneaky. But you know what? You get past things like that. But I'm not going to say it's not hurtful. And it's not something, of course, that you're not going to keep in the back of your mind, especially going forward. But there's little things like that as the parties, or especially important meetings that you may need to add value to. They will try to be very secretive. So keep that in the back of your mind. Always try to be in the know. And I know it's not always easy. But yes, be in the know, because I'm going to tell you, they're not always going to support you. Now, yeah, strong leaders may find ways to support people who they report to and who they respect. But if you're seeking additional guidance or resources from this bully, guess what? It's really going to happen. And also, it may never happen. So don't always expect the support. You could be your own show. Okay, you can sometimes feel like you're on your own team or even own department. But sure enough, I guarantee you, they're going to try to humiliate you, even if it's subtle, or it could be like something that is just like right there. They always try to humiliate you, especially in front of like what we call the big wigs. And again, it can take on many forms. It could be being yelled at a meeting, or even a practical joke that you don't find funny, but you don't have to tolerate it. And I'm going to give you an example of this, right? So it could be you're in a meeting, and then next thing you know, they say something, they like yell at you as if they're trying to discredit you or that you don't even know. I remember being in a meeting and someone said to me, and he was a director, we had to round, we were in finance, and normally we round 2 places. He says, no, Lamarr, you need to round 3 places. Don't you know? Why don't you go Google this on the website, and come to find out the website he gave me was for 3rd grade. Now, I didn't say anything about it because, I was a little pissed off, don't get me wrong, because we're human, and I was a little embarrassed. But at the same time, I said, you know what, I'm going to hold my tongue. And I know it's easy to pop off at some of these people, but you know one thing? Personally, you have responsibilities. And sometimes you try to keep your tongue. But let me tell you something. I wanted to curse him out, and he also, probably would have respected me more if he knew some of the, not just my professional experience, but some of those degrees that actually kind of trumped him. But he was just that type of person. And like I said, some of these people, they will embarrass you and try to hurt your feelings. But I always tell my clients, don't let them see you sweat. Even if you want to cry, don't do it in front of them. Go in the bathroom and cry. Go in your car and cry. Go down the elevator, something. But don't let these idiots see you sweat. Or, they'll have like a joke that you don't find funny. I remember one guy had this concatenate joke, which is like an Excel like an Excel function. He thought it was funny. I didn't, because at the time I didn't even know what concatenate was, and now I know it is. It still ain't funny to me. But sometimes you laugh, especially when other people are laughing, because you want to be considered a team player. But really, the joke's on you. So be careful when people say, you know what, I was just kidding, or psych and all that. Because as my coworker said to me one day, oh no, they're not psychic. They're not, they're serious. So again, be mindful of these things. And because really, I'm going to just tell you, these people will make fun of you and you don't even realize it. Now, there's a such thing as friendly teasing, but when these people make fun of you, it's a whole different level. And let me just say this, trust your instincts. If you feel someone is attempting to undermine your authority or your ability, make you feel less competent, that's not friendly. That is bullying. I have to say, after even all these years in my industry, I've been in for like 25 years, I don't do the teasing. I don't do the whole making fun of. I really don't, because I feel like it's not a joke. And like I said, it's always some truth behind the joke. So be mindful. And I'm going to say this. Gaslighting happens in these types of situations. Now, I know some people may ask, why don't we talk about workplace bullying when you always talk about relationships? Well, I'm here to tell you, guess what? Your coworkers are part of your relationships, your professional relationships. So that's why me as a relationship and life coach and business coach, I talk about these things, because chances are you spend probably at least 8 to 10 hours per day with your colleagues, and less of that around your family and friends. So yes, these are professional relationships. I've even seen where this bullying came down to straight violence. Now, it is rare for it to get physically violent, but I've seen it happen. And let me tell you, if it happens to you, make sure you do everything to protect yourself and to take action. But, a lot of times people can be so mean that they will try to swing on you. Again, it's very rare, but I always talk about these things and I make it known. And so the big $1 million question is, okay, if all of this happens, what should I do about it? How do I handle it? And going forward, what is next? And let me just say, what is next? Guess what? The next thing is, first and foremost, again, you need to take care of your mental health, because mental health actually was in May, Mental Health Awareness Month or something like that, right? But it was in May. But it needs to be something that is year-round, because all of these things, tactics, when it comes to bullying, it just doesn't happen in 1 month. It is like a progression. And again, companies spend a lot of money when it comes to bullying. And so you may ask me, well, how so? Well, guess what? If you're out on PTO, or, they may call it time off, some places call it PTO, which is like personal time off, they may call it that. Then guess what? That can possibly cost the company. What if you're out on short-term disability or long-term disability? When you're under the care of a therapist, that costs as well. And then even what's worse, and God forbid, what if it causes like heart attack or stroke or something like that? Hey, that costs. Or lawsuits. I mean, yes, companies have been hit with lawsuits. They have been. So I'm going to just tell you, when in doubt, if you're going through any of these, make sure you go to a therapist or some type of coach, because you know one thing, I went to a therapist and I went to a coach because I wanted to know, okay, how can I move forward? And I needed steps. I always tell people, okay, they ask me, well, why would you go to coaching? Well, it's just like, LeBron James or basketball player. They always have a coach along the way. And I need someone to hold me accountable. Even when it came down to, like I said, my, writing down in journals and things like that, or my notebook. I needed accountability. But then also on the flip side, I needed someone like a therapist or counselor, licensed counselor, to help me with my psyche. Because again, these people play tricks on you, and it can affect you in more ways than one. And I have to say, I went to one of the best. He's, now deceased. His name is Dr. J. I'm not going to say his entire name, but he flat out told me, he's like, you know what? You have to play to win. He said, I understand, just hanging in. He gave me different tactics that actually helped to calm me down and recenter. But I also got to go a step further. I was telling my father about it. He's like, you know what? The best revenge is mass success. From old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, right? And at the time, I was like, yeah, okay, here we go again with another statement. But I'm going to tell you something. It was very valuable. And the reason why is because I would go for different positions too. And they will always knock me down. Oh, I don't have the right skill set. I don't have the right training I need. I don't have the education. All of those things. And you know what? Every time I was knocked down, not because I wasn't confident enough to do the job just because, like I said earlier, my manager said, hey, I moved you, and she did, until I said, you know what, I'm not going to allow her to hold my professional career in her hands. I'm moving on to another company. When I move on to another company, I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to have the training and the skill sets, and I'm sure going to have way more education than they are asking for. So that was my revenge. It almost seemed like I was giving them like the invisible middle finger, but it's the truth. Because in any of these situations, when you're being bullied, honestly, there's going to be someone on your team or in your department who's going to be known as like the phenomenon, or like some of us used to call it in school, the teacher's pet. And yeah, that's going to happen. There's going to be someone probably that you're going to be compared to because they are that teacher's pet. And I don't want to say that boss's pet, but there are. Those are the ones that move up the ladder. Those are the ones who get the bonuses and the raise and all that. And you're going to be the one, if you're being bullied, who gets the short end of the stick. And also, when it comes to the short end of the stick, be mindful of the fact that your responsibilities may get decreased too. They'll start dwindling without any prior discussion or any sign. Absolutely. I mean, I'm giving all these examples, but trust me, because I've gone through them. And as I sit and I'm, saying all this to you, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to relive this horror story. Absolutely. Because again, I remember being a consultant. I used to have like 8 or 9 hours worth of work. Then it started dwindling down to like 6. Then it went to like 4. And then they started questioning me, like, what are you doing between hours and 10 and 11? So yeah, they started slowly removing my responsibilities and duties because they wanted to sort of make me obsolete. They wanted to take my responsibility and move it over to someone else. And yes, that is a form of bullying. And that is really a red flag because make no mistake, bullies are also considered micromanagers. They will stand over your shoulders. As when they stand over your shoulders, they are actually, like I said, they could be taking away some of your responsibility. They also may, guess what, start giving you unwelcome sexual advances. And yeah, I know this may sound like a no-brainer, but sometimes you may have to come face to face with this. And so if this happens to you, guess what? Or if you think it's happening, you're probably right about it. They will, like I said, they will block all your promotions or anything like that because, again, people can only hurt you in 2 places, your heart and your pocket. And be sure that they're going to hurt you in your pocket. I've even had situations where they would give me a pretty good raise. They would take my bonus and they would give it to someone else, less deserving of me. And so, again, be mindful. And they'll say, well, you're not up to this aptitude, or you need to work on this, that, and the other. But meanwhile, somebody else could be getting married, or they could have bought a home or something like that. They take my money, which I need, and give it to them because they are bullying and they are showing favoritism. So, again, make sure you get into a coaching program. Again, you have my information. It's 973-214-6464, or even DRLAMARRSPENCER@gmail.com. I'm on the socials. If you Google me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Please reach out to me because, workplace bullying is very lonely. It's very disheartening. I remember, like I said, when I was going through it, I couldn't even sleep at night. My brain was constantly racing. I'm up at 4 or 5 in the morning because I was afraid, thinking like, oh my gosh, did I miss this? Did I miss that? Thinking in my mind, I'm working or, anything like that. Oh my gosh, I made a mistake. It was so many scenarios. And like I said, I've done almost probably well over 10 years of, research on bullying. And I'm going to tell you, everyone, the common denominator is always stress and fear of losing their job. We have bills and responsibilities and we don't want to go through that. But look, again, reach out to me if you're going through it. I thank you so very much. And again, if this is happening, please, please, please reach out to me. not tomorrow, but today. Now, everyone, thank you so very much for listening to me, and you take care.
You've been listening to The Truth of the Matter with Dr. Spencer. Yes, we talk about taboo topics, but that's life. And we keep it real and raw. Our passion is to educate and enlighten. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show. And we'll be back soon. But if you have a unique relationship situation and you'd like help, or you're tired of having to choose between your career and personal life, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer is a life alignment strategist and a certified life, relationship, and business coach. So make sure to reach out on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. Lamarr Spencer, on Twitter at Dr. Spencer 15, on Facebook at Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, and the website drlamarrspencer.com. Or go old school and call 973-214-6464. Don't forget to purchase the book, The Depth and Diversity with Relationships. Find it on Amazon and the website. See you next time on The Truth of the Matter.